on the video. Welcome to today's session. We are going to explore problems, and I titled this "What is a problem?" and we're gonna look at that. So it's using a concept called dependent origination, which you can Google, and there's a lot of stuff. There's quite some interesting stuff about it. It's a very Buddhist concept, so it talks a lot about Buddha and karma and previous lives, but you can also pick apart what dependent origination actually is. So if we just start by moving the body and allowing it to open up so that we can sit for a little bit, pay attention to the mind. So making whatever movements feel good for the body. And then when you're ready, coming to your meditation posture, wherever that might be. It might be in a chair, it could possibly be sitting like I am, or lying down on the floor. So we want to make sure we have a long spine. We can fill the torso up with oxygen to help calm the body. So closing the eyes, we're gently finding a gaze. Actually, before we do that, before we go into this space, I'll just say a few words about, so I've titled this "What is a problem?" because people probably will have no idea what dependent origination is, as I didn't either. But it's the concept that if something arises, it's because of a result of certain conditions and causes. So there's circumstances that cause things to happen, and this we'll see is when those conditions are no longer applicable. So as it's dark clouds here and raining, there's rain because of the type of clouds that are here, and when those clouds go away, the rain will stop. And if the clouds go away completely, the sun will shine. So it's about that kind of situation, that we need to have certain causes and conditions in order for something to happen. And when those causes and conditions are no longer there, it stops. So therefore, our suffering or torment that we give ourselves is a result of certain conditions that our mind plays on us. You know, it's generally in our mind. Because when we think about different things, some people love the rain, other people hate the rain. Some people love hot weather, other people hate hot weather. And we need to realize that when the condition ends, so will the suffering. So sometimes we do have control over those conditions ending, such as people who hate the rain would not live in England. They'd perhaps move away somewhere to the Caribbean, Majorca, something like where I'm trying to get to. And also in cases of anxiety, there's certain situations at times that cause people anxiety. Sometimes people get generalized anxiety for what appears no reason, but there are other times where people have panic attacks. It could be because of what their thought process is going through, because of a certain situation that they're in. Maybe a certain person or job causes them anxiety. And when those conditions cease, so will the anxiety or the suffering. So why would we look at this concept of dependent origination? Well, it's because we are ignorant that we believe that things only exist from our perspective, or when the ego says that this, how we're feeling right now, is the absolute truth. Because as I've discussed in previous meditations, our feelings are impermanent. They're ever-changing. Sometimes a situation that made us stressed or anxious in the past no longer makes us feel that way. So that's not truth. That's not the reality of a situation. Remembering that reality is truth. So if we imagine a baby being born with sunglasses, I know not possible, but they're going to see the world different their whole lives with the sunglasses on. It's going to be dark, that it will be to you and I who don't wear sunglasses all of the time. But they aren't aware of that, so they're not aware that another dimension, another perspective exists. And we're going to explore how things aren't necessarily as we see them. So we're going to take those sunglasses off today and explore what a problem is. You can do, this is a very typical Buddhist meditation. There's the 12 points of dependent origination. And what a Buddhist would do is meditate on these 12 points. And it goes from death to rebirth. and therefore I'm not going to do it in that sense, because you need to believe in karma and previous lives and future lives in order to do that concept. But breaking down the idea of this dependent origination, I find can be very, very helpful. And actually, after I researched this, I did it because I am currently suffering from quite a lot of anxiety, and I will go through that that example when we go through the meditation. So we want to, when we make something, whatever situation it is, so think of, some problem that you're currently experiencing or have experienced. We make it into a concrete, identifiable object that's like a monster that is overpowering our lives. When we look at what the problem is, I think you're going to find that you can't actually grasp it. You can't pick it up like I can pick up this glass of water. It's not a tangible object like this. So that's what makes us get angry and attached and experience all of the problems that follow after that, is our mind is grasping onto this concept that as though it's a real object in our lives that we need to get rid of, when actually it doesn't exist in that way. It will become clear during the meditation. Okay. And just something to think about is like manners. If you're still having a hard time, it took me a while to understand this concept. But if we think of manners, and you go to different cultures, and certain things are polite or impolite. In certain places in the East, they slurp their soup. If you were to do that at a posh dinner in England, you would never be invited back to that dinner party and excluded from the posh society for being rude. So it's all about perspective. We the mind puts up these cultures. Somebody somewhere decided that slurping in the West was rude, but that's not. There's no universal view of manners or what's polite and impolite. And therefore, these problems, they're made up in our mind as well. So now let's get into our meditation posture, whatever that is. Remembering we want a nice long spine. And closing the eyes or finding a gentle gaze. And imagining a wide open space. Somewhere possibly that overlooks a body of water, other mountains, perhaps a village. And as you start to focus on the breathing, I'm going to recite the 4 immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be dissociated from the supreme happiness. May they remain in boundless equanimity, free from attachment to close ones and rejection of others. Finding grounding in this open space, imagining what it smells like, what it sounds like, what is inside this space. There's no people, no distractions. There could possibly be animals, insects, trees. Remembering this is a safe place where we're allowed to explore things in a non-judgmental way. I'm beginning to focus on the breathing. Deep inhales through the belly, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. Exhale, emptying the lungs. The chest, the ribs, and the stomach fall back towards the spine. And as we lengthen each inhale and each exhale, imagining we're inhaling a white light, Exhaling a black cloud of smoke, of unpleasant and disturbing thoughts. So inhaling with the white light, something positive, something we need, a sense of calm, peace, love, compassion, whatever you need today. Exhaling a black cloud of smoke. Beginning to think of a problem you have. And I'm going to talk through a problem that I'm currently having, just so you have an example. So what is the problem? Where is the problem? So my problem now is that I'm finding it very difficult to get work because I'm in the UK and most of the boats are not here, and you need to be in the country wherever the boat is, which I can't get to because most of them are in Mallorca or in Spain. So when I look at what is the problem, is the problem COVID? Is the problem physically inside Spain? Is it in England? Is the problem inside the space between Spain and the UK? So if people come to England or if they travel to Spain, are they part of my problem? Can you see my problem when you look at me? So where does it exist? To me, it feels like a real tangible thing. I frequently get angry, I get frustrated. I've now had about almost consistent 24 hours of anxiety, a crushing chest. So it feels very real to me. But is that my problem? Is my problem the crushing chest? So when we actually explore the problem, it becomes difficult to identify exactly where and what the problem is. For the next few moments, try to identify what the problem is, exactly what it is. Where does my problem exist? Is it with the people who put the travel restrictions on? Is it with the virus? The people who have it? Is my problem inside the mind of the government or the doctor who's advising restrictions? Like where does it actually exist? Where does your problem actually exist? And if you find the mind wandering, gently bring it back to explore where exactly this. We're trying to find it. It's like we're playing lost and found with this problem. Where does it exist? Being gentle with ourselves, accepting that the mind is going to want to wander. The mind might be saying this is a really stupid concept. For first time I had to do this, I was like, what? So, forgiving the mind, not putting a label on it. It's not a problem that we can't focus. There's no problem. Bringing it back. What is the problem? Where does it exist? What is the problem? Where does it exist? Is it actually a tangible object that we can see, that everybody sees? And going a bit deeper, it's, not all objects are as we appear. If there's a culture out there that doesn't have a glass as I do, they might think that it's instead of a glass, perhaps it's a vase for flowers, perhaps it's a container for holding something. So as you're trying to find what this problem is and where it exists, you begin to see that what we call problem is just a whole bunch of different circumstances. And our mind is putting a concept around it and giving it a label. So the mind is creating this problem. It's saying that it's more than just those different circumstances. It's my mind that's making this travel restriction and difficulty finding work a problem. It doesn't actually physically exist anywhere. And once we labeled it a problem, it becomes different to what it was before. So before, when I first arrived in England, it was a set of rules and a group of people trying to control a pandemic. And I didn't really see it as a problem. I thought, okay, I'll be here for a while, a few weeks, I thought. And I didn't see it as a problem. I saw it as a challenge. I saw it as what it is a pandemic, as a set of rules that the world is trying to control. My mind then made it into a problem. The longer I was here, the more I wanted to work, the more I wanted to be around people. And once I said that it was a problem, I suddenly became angry and anxious. I became angry at a group of people I've never met. I became angry at a set of rules that don't also physically exist. They're a concept. You can break rules. It doesn't mean that I have been breaking the rules by meeting up with people. So I've made that could have been a problem. I could have stuck to those rules, right? But my mind said, well, we don't have to follow them. So with this exercise, we begin to see how the mind makes a big deal out of something that isn't actually a big deal. It's a set of circumstances, a set of conditions that are impermanent, that will come and go. We are projecting a meaning onto a situation that is not truth. So the mind is creating the problem, but another way to look at dependent origination is to look at what is the mind? Where is the mind? What does it look like? What does exist? So the mind is creating the problem, and the problem doesn't exist in the outside world. And if you don't believe me, there are some people who are introverts who possibly have a fear of going outside or seeing people in social situations that are loving this. This is not a problem. COVID is not a problem. Travel restrictions are not a problem. They're happy to be home. And therefore my problem in my mind is their dream come true. It's not a problem at all. So with this in mind, taking out our imaginary rucksack, and then placing in the rucksack the object or the questions, what is my problem and where is my problem? Acknowledging that you're not going to be able to master this concept today, that you're not going to be able to master it within a week. I've been known about this concept for 2 years, and it did relieve my anxiety last night when I did it, but the anxiety was back this morning when I woke up. So it's okay, it's practice, it takes a long time. We need to plant these seeds in order for a flower, a plant to grow, a tree to grow. Placing the rucksack on our backs, with the eyes closed, walking into what reality is in front of us right now. Becoming aware of the sounds outside of the space, of the feel of the ground, where our body is touching, wherever we're supported on. Breathing in deeply through the nose. Exhaling out any remaining disturbing, unpleasant thoughts so that we can carry on through the rest of our day or evening, whatever time you're watching this. Feeling a bit more grounded, having a new perspective on what a problem is. Is it really a problem? And dedicating this practice to somebody who might need some extra support, some extra love today. Sending compassion their way. And I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a mindful day free of this concept that we place ourselves on, of a problem that we place on ourselves. Right, so have a lovely day, and until tomorrow.